ST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We're Rolling Audio here today on episode 359 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I've got a really kick-ass episode for you here today, as I try to every single week right here on The Hodder Show. I am chatting with Ben and Kyle Hanna from the almighty Mountainhead, and we have just a stellar conversation talking about their recent show opening up for Nickelback. Talk about kind of their journey and their musical career. We also have a really fun and interesting conversation about the time they did DMT and other psychedelic drugs, which is something I've never really talked about on the show. So it was really fun to get to hear their experiences with it. Definitely a trip, to say the least. And then we talk, of course, a little bit more about kind of their journey, a little bit about the music industry in general, with them releasing singles and things of that nature. A little bit about the musical style, some gear, favorite shows, things of that nature. We cover a lot of ground, and it was a lot of fun getting to chat with those guys. So we're going to jump into that. But before we do, I want to take a quick second to thank everybody for their support on last week's episode of the show. Little Hodder Show rewind action for you, going all the way back to episode 186. Sleep Paralysis Sucks with my boy Cazo Jones. Definitely a fun time. I really enjoyed doing the Hodder Show rewinds, and people said they really enjoyed that particular rewind. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. We've got 3 more episodes coming this year. 2022 has been a phenomenal year, but we're going to talk about all that because, as you guys know, I'm going to hype it right now. We got the retrospective episode coming up. It'll be the last episode of the year with my boy Josh Culver from Soul Loading Podcast. So very much looking forward to that. In between there, I got some Christmas content coming. So look forward to that. I always enjoy doing the storytelling stuff at Christmas, so we're going to have some fun. Just like we're going to have some fun here today talking with Ben and Kyle from Mountainhead. Before we do, real quick, we're going to hear a word from the sponsors who are helping the Hodder Show grow. Let's check it out. All right, guys, we got Kyle and Ben Hanna from Mountainhead on the show. Boys, what's up? Good to see you.
What's up,
going on,
TJ, man?
TJ? We're just chilling in the studio right now and having a nice chat with you.
Hey, you guys have got quite the folks at home can't see it, but describe real quick just the setup you guys have. Like, you've got a nice vibey, cool setup over there in the studio.
Yeah, we definitely. Well, it is getting around the holiday season, so we put up some lights, and we found that some of these Christmas lights are rather psychedelic, so they're pretty good to have going on when you're just making some music. And
Getting
then
the creative juices
bunch
flowing.
of instruments behind us, and
We've got jazz legends looking us to the left. You can't see them
can't
here.
see them, but there's a bunch of jazz.
Miles,
legends to the left,
Thelonious, Coltrane, the
rock and roll
Duke.
legends to the right.
Yeah.
And
Jimmy.
then NWA in the back framed.
Of course.
That one's been a classic for a long time.
Yep. So we got all the legends overlooking us, what we're doing when we're doing it, making
Yeah.
sure we're doing things right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. If you can't have a vibey setup and be overlooked by legends while you're writing badass music, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's it, man. That's it, TJ. You got
Exactly.
Well, before we go any further, just real quick, obviously we got a lot of ground to cover, speaking of legends and so forth and
Yep.
recent shows and things of that nature. I just have to say, just before anything else, you guys have absolutely magnificent beards.
Thank you very
it.
much.
Hey, thanks,
You
dude.
have a
You got
great
a
one,
great
too.
one, too.
Oh, thank you. I I shaved it fairly recently, but yeah, that was the first thing I
Wow.
noticed about you guys. I was like, holy shit, these guys have an awesome look, and the beards and the full. And then once you hear the music, it's like, okay, this is cool. This is very. It's not what I expected, to be honest. When I heard the music, I was like, this is really cool, and like kind of like electro rock pop kind of
Yeah.
vibe happening, a little psychedelic maybe, still some good riffs and stuff. I was like, this is really cool.
Dope, man.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It's definitely been a odd discovery for us.
Well, that's it. Well, we're definitely going to get into that. But first, you guys are just coming off of a pretty badass show that just happened, as the folks are hearing this, I guess a couple of weeks ago now,
Yep.
in which you opened for Nickelback at their first show back in, like, I think it was like 2 years, basically since the pandemic, I think, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the album release party for Get Rolling,
Yes,
which
for
just
Get
came out.
Rolling. Yeah.
Yeah,
As a huge Nickelback fan, I was like, that's That's pretty awesome. How was that experience for you guys?
It was great, and it kind of came out of nowhere. We had just got, like, kind of funny enough too, when you kind of look back at things that were going on, like almost like foreshadowing, because we were out at the end of September. We were out in BC working with Garth Richardson and Dave Schiffman, and Garth did the first Nickelback record, and we were talking about that at a certain point. We were talking about a bunch of albums Garth made, because he made a bunch of classics, but I think it was maybe like 2 weeks after we got back from that recording trip that our manager called us and our agents called us, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to open for this small time Canadian band Nickelback?" Like just making that joke, and we're like, yes.
There's two. Yeah, so my dumbass would have been like, "There's two." There's another Nickelback. What?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So that was cool, and it was cool too to find out that tons of bands have been submitted for the show, and Ryan and Chad picked us to open.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool.
Super dope, man.
I could see them. I've been literally. I'm not even like. I know some people are like, "Oh yeah, I love Nickelback." No, like I actually like my first record I ever bought was The State by Nickelback.
Nice.
Like I'm literally lifelong huge Nickelback fan.
Amazing.
And I can totally see them being big fans of your guys' stuff. Just the overall vibe that you guys have, the look, but then also just the kind of the meaning this in a positive way, like kind of like the pop sensibility of your guys' hooks and stuff like that. Like I can totally see them just going like, "This is sick."
Yeah.
I'm not shocked to hear that.
Nice. Yeah. And it was honestly, it was pretty crazy. Like when they played, it was kind of like, I mean, they got so many hits, but there was like some of the ones that I forgot were even Nickelback were coming out, and you're like, like it was just a fucking steamroller of hits all night long. And people that like some of our friends that I've never seen listen to Nickelback were fucking singing every word.
Yeah, everybody knows the song.
Everyone knows every
tunes.
Nickelback song.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
And it was funny. Like as soon as we got the gig, like I swear there was just like an endless flood of Nickelback tunes just going through my head the entire time. And I was like, just in my head, just like DJ Khaled, another one, another one. Like, so many good hits. And they were super rad to us, super nice guys, and their crew was fucking amazing to us.
Yeah.
And they're like, if you need anything moved, like fucking tell us. They're like, you know how many times we played a show opening and the fucking drummer's cymbals right up our back. So they're like, if stuff is in your way, just tell us, which is like, usually in the
Super
opening slot, it's like show up, shut the fuck up, and get the fuck out. But they were much more accommodating than that.
Especially for a band of, Nickelback's caliber, especially being in Canada. Like, you'd understand, like you said, if they were a little, like, "Hey man, just come up and play your set." But you hear that about Nickelback and their crew, that they're pretty cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was funny. Ryan said, he's like, "I caught your guys sound check. Just had to make sure you guys didn't suck."
He was like, "I was on the line for getting you here."
And I was like,
"I make sure you guys didn't suck."
I think we were doing Ricola during sound check, just goofing around.
There was definitely some parts of that.
Fucking around, man.
You're probably like, "Okay, these guys got it." Okay, you just
I think
they know the Ricola theme.
Yeah, I think people are usually a little surprised too, if they've been listening to our records but never seen us live, that we're like a power trio live. There's no tracks, there's no synths, there's no anything like that.
Yeah, we're guitar, bass, drums.
And like that's the funny thing is like all our music recorded is guitar based, but we get called synth pop all the time. But it's just like we've just found these new ways to use the guitars and the bass that sound weird, and we're like, hey, turns out if you jack a fuzz pedal all the way up, it starts to sound like a synth.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's been cool, and it's kind of been we've been sort of over the years now kind of leaning into the fact that like our live thing, like the rock and roll thing, tends to be enjoyed more than when we get a little more electronic with programming drums and stuff on the records. At times we do have live drummers, but we're basically coming back to balance now with this like the rock and roll brigade, and like the power trio live thing's been just so much fun that the recording is starting to be more like that instead of just Kyle and I tooling in the studio. No,
which we found out in BC at Garth's, like when the three of us were there recording.
Yeah, that was the first time we had recorded with Kevin, who's our live drummer, and he was our drummer. But prior, like our first album or first string of singles, we used Ian McKay, who's like a heavy session guy, because the band wasn't formed yet. And then after that, we used hip hop drummer Datsun, which was just like an experiment.
Dude on a pad was a monster on the pad. Looking at his fingers is strange.
But it was cool just as the shows developed over the years with Kevin. It's just like we're all just playing telekinetic hockey up there. We can pass the puck without looking now. So to work with him in the studio this time around was so refreshing.
Fucking awesome.
That's really exciting to hear because I mean, the first song I heard was Automatic, and it's very very groovy and stuff. But it's like I'm listening and I'm like, I'm hearing like, you know, like the synthy stuff, but I'm like, I think those are those are just, so it's cool to hear that you're doing it all on bass and guitar and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. Like all of our songs are like that, you know, like Backseat and Gaslight are probably like our poppiest kind of sound, almost like EDM.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny too. We're like, we found out that like, depending on where you place things rhythmically is where they start to sound like different instruments. Cause you start to put an electric guitar in a spot that maybe an electric piano is usually in, and it starts to sound like a synth, which was odd for us to find out. And just been like, you know, we kind of like had the joke, like, let's make club bangers with a Les Paul and a P bass.
That's a quote, folks.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Or at least attempt to, you know.
Well, I think you guys have put it this way. After the first time I heard Backseat and Automatic and Circuit as well, I was actually in the car with my brother-in-law and I was showing him some of the stuff, and like we were like walking somewhere and I was like, I was like, fuck, they got me. Okay. Yeah. Not in a bad way, obviously, but I was just like, okay, they got my head. All right. I got it. Like, yep. Okay.
Right on. Yeah. Circuit 2 that's one of my favorite songs that we've come up with.
Yeah.
And it seems like we always have these, when we write in clusters of songs, we always have these, like, there's like a few different styles that pop up, and it's usually like a really heavy fuzz one like Circuit, a light one like Let It Out, and then like a dancer like Gaslight. And we just wrote like a heavy, like a nice heavy fuzz song just came out like 3 days ago, and we finished it and we're like, fuck, we've been wanting one of these for a while, because you can't pick them. They come when they're ready.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
But when it shows up, you're like, finally, we needed that one.
The weird
Heavy
fuzzer.
fuzz.
Yeah. We needed the sludger.
The sludger.
We don't want to get too clean in there, but you know, we're wearing black hats. We're not wearing white hats.
And I think people, like I was saying earlier, like when you see the look that you guys have, it's like you almost kind of assume, maybe, is it right or wrong? Who's to say? But it's like, oh, these guys are going to play like dirty rock and roll and sludgy riffs and stuff. But it is cool to hear that you guys still have that in the riffs and stuff. But it's just like, it's cool to hear that you're a little bit of a fuzzy song coming.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And we're just experimenting with
the many faces of Mountainhead.
Yes.
That's it. Well, to go back a bit here, I'd love to hear kind of where this whole thing started and this journey started for you guys with Mountainhead, but then also even maybe a little further back with your guys' musical careers.
Sure. Yeah, we can lead up to the Mountainhead conundrum through tale here. So basically how it all went down was like I'd been a musician my whole life, and Kyle he went to university and got a finance degree.
Yeah.
I was in university for business as well for 1 year, but in my dorm I had an 8-track Boss BR 900, so I could record right on there, and you could burn a CD on it, which was fucking awesome. So you could like cut a track, burn it, and then you're like, I got an album. And I found myself tooling around a lot on that instead of going to class and going to the gym a lot. I was really into the gym at that time. And boy, am I glad I got that out of the system then. But
notice how he said at that time.
Yes, at that time. But yeah, so I finished my first year of business school, and I was kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? And like even our grandma was like, Ben, like, I always thought you were going to do something with music.
I thought you'd always do something with the guitar.
Yeah,
she's Scottish, so she sounds more like that.
And I had definitely excelled at guitar and put a lot of time in it. And it was, you know, it was like the thing, you know, when you're a kid, like you kind of find that thing, and that was the thing. And so like when you're getting that message from your grandma who'd usually be like business school, I was kind of like, what the fuck? And so then I started researching recording schools, because I was like, I want to know how to record and produce music. And like, I never really, at that point, Kyle was just starting to play guitar, and we were like kind of goofing around with songs and stuff, like starting to write. But at that point in time, I was like, I can record and produce bands. Like I think that was my aim. So I went to Metalworks, and after my first year of Metalworks, while I was still attending, Kyle and I started a studio, this one here. And we started recording a bunch of bands. I started missing a lot of school again, but they were cool enough to be like, because I would just go to the dean and be like, look, man, I'm not coming to recording engineering 101 when a band's paying me to record their album at my house. Like, and he was like, I can't even argue with that. Just like give me, he's like, make sure, like, give me the stuff, give the coursework by any means necessary. You don't necessarily have to do it in the course. So like some of the albums we were making, I could like submit parts, like different things as projects, which was really cool of them. And like, could probably only happen
Makes sense too
at like a private college like that. But so over the time we started, you know, as we were recording all these bands, we started playing more and more and writing more and more. And then we started gigging, and it just, that went on for a couple of years. And then we started to realize that like our efforts might be best spent on ourselves, where, you know, we could get paid from bands, but like it started to be kind of like a soul robbing experience, because, you know, we'd get a few really good projects that we were into, but a lot of the stuff we were doing was like, you know,
Eagles
cover bands or like,
whatever,
like
or
people that were like 58 retired, and like they had like this hobby band, and like sure they had the money to pay for the studio time, but like when you we're yearning to create, and the stuff we were starting to turn out, like even we had an artist we were recording, and she was like, why are you recording me? Like, record that. Like, that's better than anything I'm ever going to put out. And we're like, huh, like, cause we weren't obviously not been there, like, oh, this is the best. So we formed a band, and we toured, and like we did the whole thing, put out some EPs, toured, and as that was going on, Kyle and I were also teching. You know, we toured with Metric and Death Cab, Bahamas, Hoxley Workman, Mounties. Like we were going out and just, you know, backlining and teching, and basically what we were doing was observing how these machines work so we could start to build the machine.
Though that wasn't conscious at the time.
The thing that was conscious was we were gigging and we were like, we can do this. Especially some of the opening bands were like, give me the guitar right now. Why am I selling the merch? Give me the guitar. And just through all that, so we were in this band, we had it going for a few years, and we had an EP out and a tour booked. And right before the tour started, the band fell apart. Like a couple people quit, and we were like, well, fuck, we can't just bail. So we called this dude, Drew, who is just an insane drummer. Our friend was like, get this guy in the band. And we got him in the band, and he's an absolute lamplighter.
Like Animal from the Muppets.
Yeah. And we started, and we went, yeah. And so we went a week before the tour. We went to a cottage and we wrote a bunch of music. We were like, fuck it, we're not even going to play the music the tour is booked for. And there was a lot of really cool jams in there. There wasn't too many songs, but like the way the three of us could play together was like, it was out of hand. So some shows would be, you know, we got 6 songs, but the show was 2 hours, and we were just indulging way too much. And we were
having a blast,
really into the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers at the time. So we were really jamming.
Just 2 hours of jams.
Yeah. And then, so we got back from that tour, and obviously we didn't feel the best about it, because we were like, that was fun, but it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything like that. And we got a call from Drew, and maybe this was like the very end of the tour, because we got a call from Drew, and he's like, hey guys, the Main Vein's in town. And Drew's a cat that spends a lot of time in South America hanging out with indigenous tribes, eating the plants that those guys eat. And Kyle and I have been known to enjoy eating plants and other things that you know, change the consciousness. So when we got a call that the Main Vein was in town, we were ultimately intrigued about, first of all, what does that mean? And second of all, what ceremony is he hosting? And so we agreed to do it, and we said yes, and the ceremony was the next day, but that night we had to play the horseshoe, and we were told no sex, drugs, or alcohol prior to the ceremony. We're like, cool, that's fine. But we were also probably the first time we've ever not gotten stoned or drank before a show. turns out we played great. Being sober on stage is a good thing. We do that
Who'd
a
have
lot
thunk
more
it?
now. Yeah. And so then we wake up the next day and we head down to the Danforth to the host's place. And we know now that we're doing a dimethyltryptamine ceremony, which is DMT, which is a very, very powerful psychedelic, and it hits you like if a meteor coming to Earth could crash directly into your forehead, that's how it hits. So we get to this apartment, we knock on the door, and it's almost like we knock and it kind of like drifts open, and there's like a soft voice being like, "Come in." And we see this like, this younger lady. She's a few years older than us at the time. She's like, "Yeah, come in, have a seat." And she introduces herself, and she's hosting the shamans. She met the shamans at one of the places Drew met them in South America, and she's like, these guys got some shit they need to tell some people. So she's hosting them while they're in town, spreading the news.
As it were.
Yeah. And so we're just sitting there. And obviously at this point, anxiety is starting to just ramp up because you're just like, what the fuck?
Okay.
And so the door, and we think Drew and the shaman's upstairs because there's like an upstairs and it's dark and quiet. But then the front door opens and in comes the shaman and Drew. And Drew looks like he's on the verge of tears, but not from like happiness. Like he looks dead fucking terrified. And he's also a little also a little dressed up. He's got a bunch of meditation stuff on. And sometimes when you see people showing up to these things and all their equipment, that can kind of be the bad trip in itself because the head's just going wild.
You're like, what is happening?
Yeah. And so we're like, great. And he goes, yeah, well, guys, there's just some things about myself I'm just going to have to accept. And we're like, fuck. Okay.
We're next.
All right.
Okay.
This may not be a good time.
Yeah. So then the shaman sits down and I look to him and I'm like, hey, we can go together. We don't need to go separate. And he was like, just chill for a sec. And like, this dude is like, his face looks like a jaguar. He's got longer hair than us and this sick headband on. And like, again, just like he looked like a jaguar or like one of those like Aztec stone carvings, and you're like, this motherfucker ain't playing. And
this is a real motherfucker.
Yeah, you just look him in the face, you know immediately.
Yeah. And so he's just like, let's just sit here and just concentrate. He just kind of puts on like meditative mind or whatever, just kind of like a ooh sound. And we just sit there for 10 minutes, and he was adamant that we were going to do it one by one. And then after that 10 minutes, he goes, okay, both of you, let's go. And then so we start walking, and I have no idea where we're going. I'm like, what the fuck? Because I'm like, this guy, he's a Mayan shaman. Like he's from Mexico. And I'm like, I'm assuming he doesn't know his way around the Danforth in Toronto.
And we don't know what the hell we're doing either. So.
And so we're walking, and we come by this tree, and there's 3 feathers. And he's like, the spirits are with us. Puts a feather in my hair, puts a feather in Kyle's hair, puts a feather in his hair. And then we come up to this dog park, and I'm like, oh, great. This is looking like might be where this is going down. And we walk into this dog park, and there's fucking people and dogs everywhere. And at the time, we still had long hair and beards, probably wearing bandanas, and we're with the shaman. So obviously the 3 of us are this walking button of like, what the fuck are these guys?
Everyone's just looking at you guys walking by.
Yeah, what are they up to, and why are these 2 white boys scared shitless, and who is this guy escorting them? And so I'm sitting there being like, okay, there's got to be a place deep dark in this park where he's going, where there's no one around. No, we take 20 steps into this fucking park, and he goes right up here.
Right here, right?
And he's like, who's going first? And I was like, I'll go. And he's like, okay, sit at the base of this tree. And the funny thing is we were sitting at the base of a pine tree, and the DMT and the pineal gland. This was all the shaman's doing here. He had all these metaphors working together here. And so he puts this blanket over my head, and he pulls up a little straight glass pipe, which is like, it's like an eyedropper with the dropper part removed. So it basically looks like a crack pipe. And he's like, pull in very slowly. And he's like, and when I tell you, go. And so I was just pulling in. He lights it and pulling it really slowly, and like right away I'm like, this tastes fucked up. And I'm starting to like it's hitting it as you're hitting it, it's hitting you. And so he goes, do it. And I go, and he pulled the blanket from over my head, and it kind of seemed like he turned into a raven and flew away. Like that's what it sounded like. And then I just remember this really loud frequency building, like, and it kept going higher and higher, and I was getting really tense, like, and then it just went, and I dropped. My mouth hit my mouth was like, it just, all the tension left the body at once, and you're gone. Like, this reality, eyes open or closed, is not here anymore. Like, you're in a sealed off container going through whatever the fuck it is that is. And it's the most astonishing thing you've ever seen, heard, felt, or been a part of. Like, it's absolutely astonishing. And the shaman was like, look, when you get in there, it's going to be beautiful. Look around, but like, we're here to work and pay attention. And he kept saying, work, work, work. And it's kind of like, as you're getting pulled into the experience, because it can be overwhelming, can kind of like put you down. And he'd be like, get you to sit back up. And like, again, all this stuff is just kind of happening on its own. But it just like, it was just such an insane experience. And it's almost like you're communicating. You can say you're communicating with God or the deepest part of nature or the universe, but you're really communicating with the deepest part of yourself. And it's like, it's almost like we've done it more recently, for the first time since that experience. And like, we've been calling it Grandma's Attic this time around, because it's almost like you're going up to see the proverbial grandmother, and she knows everything you've done. And she's just like, hey, check this stuff out. This is where you've been kind of being a bit of a fucker there, little Jimmy. And you kind of just, you're like, okay, I won't be bad ever again. Because you're just like, please just let me go back to Earth now. If you can even remember that Earth exists. Because like, let me tell you, as soon as that stuff hit my lungs, I didn't give a fuck that we were in a dog park, that there was people around, or that Ben ever thought there was an idea of him existing ever, or that there was even an idea of Earth existing. Like, you transcend it in 3 seconds, and it's no choice of your own. Like, there's no choice in the matter of transcension. It's happening. And like, I remember at one point being like thinking about who I was with, like Kyle and the shaman, or like who I've done at other times. And the space is literally like, it's not time to see your friends yet. Like, we're going through this, whether you want to or not. And, one of the things he said on the way to the trip was like, when you get in there too, like the lower spirits are going to nip at you and the higher spirits will respect you. And I've always, through past experience with psychedelics, been like, there's no external entities. This is all the subconscious and archetypes. Like, this is how the mind works, in my understanding. And so I was very skeptical of what the spirits would be. And lo and behold, when I'm in the experience, the lesser spirits that were presenting themselves as these like distracting things were the words going on in my head, the English words trickling across, trying to distract me, or be like, hey, this is getting out of control. You got to get, like, whatever it was. And the respectful entities or spirits, which again were not external, were all the things I felt new. So all the stuff that, like, all the solid things that like I was not shaken in my heart was like the respectful reflection I was seeing. And like, keep in mind, all this is happening at light speed. Like, it's such a quick shakeup, like what would happen when you reset a Tamagotchi, and it's like it was literally like that. And you come back down, and you're like, did that even just happen? You kind of just have a laugh.
You have to have a laugh. I mean, that's your only reaction, especially to find out that you like had this whole life going on. You're like, oh yeah, that's what I was up to.
Oh yeah, I'm a person. And
yeah, all that comes
stuff
back, and you start dying laughing. It's the only reaction you can have after something like that.
Yeah. So then Kyle went after me.
How was your experience?
Same thing, man. Like, I wouldn't know what to say other than like, oh, what?
And watching him is like, we went through the exact same things at the exact same times.
It's like a similar thing. It's a funny thing that we all kind of getting like similar things in this area.
And like, the first thing that hit too, like as I was inhaling the pipe, was the strongest feeling of deja vu I've ever had. Like literally, like, it's hitting me, and I was like, oh, I dreamt about this last night. And then I was like, oh no, this is the only dream there ever was. And then I was like, oh. And then, because it's so oddly familiar.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And it's like, it seems, he was calling it like the gates. Like, it seems like the waiting, like not the waiting room, like the space where either you are before you're born or where you die. Like, it's so strange. And it's the most immensely beautiful geometric things and colors you've never seen before, and sounds and weird shit happening that you could never consider. But the other thing that happened was this dog ran up to us when we were done, licked all three of us in the face, and ran off. And he's like, "This is a good sign." And then he explained to us why he does the whole thing in the dog park. And he's going on about, like, dogs are like the protectors of the realm. Like these are the grounded beings here. And he's like, I do it here because I can watch what the dogs are doing in the park and understand specifically what the person is going through in the trip. And we were like, holy fuck. And then so he drew a literal line in the sand, and he was like, forget everything that's happened in your life up until this point. You guys know what you have to do. Now go do it. And it was kind of like, in the memory now, it's not this, like, we weren't actually dressed like this, but as I think about it now, it's like when we were walking out of there, we were wearing this, If I remember it now, it seems like that, because we realized then and there what we had always known, which was like, stop handing it off to other people. Because if we're in bands with 3 other people that aren't working as hard as we are and aren't showing up to rehearsal or aren't writing, and then we're writing and rehearsing, and we start to take a more charged position in that band, people start to get pissed off, and it started diluting it, where it's like, we live together, we create all the time, whenever we can, whenever we want to, because, like, it's not like we gotta wait for the drummer, we gotta wait for the key, you gotta wait for all these people to get together, and then to say yes to a gig is, you want to do this gig?
Sure.
Cool. It's not like going through all these channels. So we realized we were just watering ourselves down by always putting more people between us. And not to say we're against collaboration, but it just, when it comes to writing and creating, like, Kyle and I have this thing that really works for ourselves, and it worked in other bands. It just, you get caught in doing other things with other people, and it just was like, it's time, guys. You know it, just do it. And we just kind of left there being like, man, hit. Not actually, but that was like the
right away. It was just like, this is
I'll
our whole
do it
thing.
immediately. But it was just like the emblazoned thing to be like, go off on your own and be okay with that. And so now you can't mitigate your responsibility to anyone,
Right.
And you can't
That's the
make
big
excuses.
thing. You're responsible for
you
this.
have to do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And also heavy. Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff in there. Like, this is probably the closest to a Joe Rogan conversation I've ever had, and I love it. But not, you guys ever done DMT?
Yeah.
But like, it's funny because just talking about like the dog park thing, I was curious about why he would take you guys to a dog park, but that makes sense because, like, as a animal lover, my, like, even if I even remotely show any kind of emotion, like I've got a pit bull, and they're known for being very emotional animals, right?
Yeah.
If I even, like most dogs, but her especially, like, if I even remotely my voice changes a little bit, or same with my wife, anything like that, she's right at us, like, all up in our grill, trying to, and I'm always like, she's literally just trying to give us that energy. And like, so that's interesting to hear. But one
it was
thing,
trippy.
You were talking about the am I correct in saying that DMT it's been linked to like near-death experiences as well? Like,
For
it's
sure.
kind of a similar.
Yeah, and
so that's
it's in everything. It's
Everyone's packing,
Yeah, everyone's packing. It's the body creates it. They don't know where yet. They think it's in the lungs or the spinal fluid, and it's in like the blades of grass on your front lawn. Like, it's in everything. And they're almost like, they're starting to think that DMT is what's regulating this reality. And like, it's what's regulating everything. And I have no idea, but it makes sense that when you smoke it, you get flooded, and it's like, no more regulation. You wanted to see the fucking pixels for what they are. Here they are. It's not the
back end
this
code.
physical look.
Here's like the real world. Here's
Here's the programming language of where you embody. And it's a fucking trip, man. And like I said, we smoked it the Saturday before that Nickelback show for the first time in 5 years since we had, and it was a completely different experience, but very similar. And the first thing again was like, oh yeah, here we go.
And like recognizing the space, being like, you forgot.
Yeah, and it kind of laughs at you, being like, you were really caught up, weren't you, buddy? And it's literally like that. It's like, ha ha. Like, it's kind of joke, like a jester. But again, it's like the other side of it is like, you're going to see your grandma, and you're kind of disturbing her work. And what she's doing is knitting the scarf of infinity. and she doesn't necessarily want to be disturbed, but she'll pay you time. And like there's a lot of crazy stories out there that are akin to ours, and there's a lot of crazy ones that are more like into like people seeing actual things. And I kind of think it's like, because the other thing the shaman said was like, yo, set an intention when you're using anything. And what I really think he meant is like, live your life intentionally so that you're
So
there
you
with
remember
life.
what you're doing. Like,
But when you, because like I asked for, or I intended on something more specific this time around, and I got it. So I was like, this seems like perhaps whatever you intend, it's going to show you clearly. And the funny thing was this time around was like, yeah, it literally is a magic mirror. Like I asked for obstacles be cleared, and turns out that they were all in my body, tension being carried. I got like literally a chiropractic adjustment from the universe. Like it was like, okay, we're going to do this 2 more times. And it would like contort my body and then just move and go and just you like audible cracks, and being like, when they crack, you're like, oh my God, yes. Like you breathe in and air touches a part of your body it hasn't touched since you maybe forever. And it was mucho bizarro again.
It seems like quite an experience as someone who, aside from, you know, edibles and stuff like that, I've never partaken in any of that
edibles
stuff.
are the scariest shit.
Edibles will pin you down to the fucking ground with like the scorpion stinger right at your forehead.
Yeah, see, I've had pretty good experiences myself. Like it just kind of mellows me out because I'm always all the time.
Exactly.
But like, so it kind of just brings me down,
slows
which is
the engine down.
But my issue would be I'm very much in belief that you put out into the universe what you want to get back, right? And it seems like that's kind of the same vein. It's like, if you go into something like, I want to see some shit, you're going to see some shit.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, anyone I've spoken to who have, you know, are regular users of psychedelics or things of that nature, like they're like, if you go into any kind of a session like that wanting to just see freaky shit, it's like you see freaky shit, but especially with DMT, I can only imagine what you'd be.
The DMT thing is just like you have. There's some experiences like mushrooms is kind of like this too. Like mushrooms and DMT are pretty similar. Like LSD, you can kind of like guide it around a bit. Where mushrooms and DMT especially is like, sit down, motherfucker. I'm taking you where you need to go, not where you want to go. And you're like, can I just touch the wheel? They're like, no. Stop it. You need to see this.
You're just in the passenger seat of this journey.
And no choice. And the driver is a maniac.
You have to be okay with it. Yeah. And then it's like,
we're going to run every red light. We're going to
exactly.
Speed limit is a suggestion.
Yeah. That's it, man.
Where we're going, there are no roads.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's awesome. So when you guys, you know, like you said, walked out of the dog park, you remembering like you're in this getup, was that pretty much instantly when it was like, here's exactly what we're doing, here's the vibe of what we're going for? Kind of how did that transition into what Mountain Head is now?
No, I wasn't exactly immediately, man. These like fell into place as we walked the path of the mystery. But it was just like, again, the Mountain Head and our confidence in going that direction was the start of the path. Like the map started revealing itself as it went along. We just kind of, this fell together. We're like, okay, black and gold. This isn't confusing. There's 2 colors. We're going to stay on that. Simple. Our guitars are that. Okay, cool. And then again, just these denim things showed up. The hats showed up. We were joking about like, we had this song called Make a Monday, and it sounded like we were robbing a bank, kind of, haha. And we were like, what if we had gold teeth? And then the next show,
so
a guy side stage smiles at us. He's got a full set of gold teeth. And we're like, what the fuck? Okay, we got to go ask him. We got to go talk to this guy.
Yeah, the grills was like the line where we're like, this is either brilliant or the stupidest thing we're ever going to do. And like that really peaked when we were at the gold exchange with the fucking mouth, with the molds in our mouth. But it turned out to be awesome, and they're actually great on stage because you don't chip your tooth. You
don't hit the microphone.
If you hit the mic a little too hard. But yeah, it like Kyle said, it kind of pieced itself together as we were going. It's like as you start to cut this path, there's like little pieces of candy or whatever you want to call it. Ooh, a piece of candy on the ground.
Being like, about to make that joke.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
ooh, a piece of candy.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like, yo, check it out. Like keep going, and it kind of, you know, that stuff seems to always show up whenever the
when you're following the mystery, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the experience like DMT. It doesn't have to be like this, but it was so insane that you're like, well, what is anything else? Like, I don't know. This is the big mystery. And you just kind of get into that groove of with like, I'm on the adventure. Let's see what happens.
When the funny thing is like the mystery is my story. History is his story. So
silly, but true.
But we've found over the years, the more and more we lean into our thing, ourselves, our originality, the more everything just comes together, which is, it's like so cliche, but it's so true. Cause it's like, you're the only you. Like it is actually true.
Yeah.
And so the more you trust yourself,
act like it actually is,
the more the universe seems to clear the path, because you're not doing things with ill intent. You're not, and ill intent doesn't mean it's bad. It just, you can be doing things because you don't know how else to do them. So you're doing them how someone else did it. Again, his story. And you think that that's what you have to do, where it's like, no, this billion-year-old computer that you have that's uniquely programmed to you can lead you to whatever it is you need to do. And it's in there. You just have to trust it. And the more you trust it, the more you gain confidence with it, the more it grows.
You're sitting in the GPS, man.
Or so it seems, like I couldn't track down hard data, but I've got some evidence compiling that this seems to be the case.
I think a lot of people who have success in life and things of that nature will say very similar things. It's like, I started finding success when I just started putting that trust in myself that I know what I'm doing, and start believing in the process. And hey, if I put this out into the world, hey, if I think this is the right way to go, I feel this in my heart. So it has to be. I don't want to be the next whoever the hell, I want to be the first me or whatever.
Yeah,
that saying is.
Yeah, it's everyone else is taken or whatever it is. Like
yes, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. And it's fucking true.
And there's a sacrifice to doing it. Like there's some real sacrifices to doing it, but you have to go through it. You're going to be alienated all of a sudden because you're not fitting in. It's like all this stuff. You go through it, through your head, through all these things. So there's a real sacrifice from doing it. It's not just like, oh, I'll just be me now.
And like you have to show up and do the stuff. Like you have to find out what it is. You have to you have to do the work, which, it took us a long time to be able to like self-discipline and not, to really set up our day so that we weren't just aimless or not doing anything. Like that's the big struggle too, is just like disciplining yourself to do it. And again, it's just a compound thing. As it starts to show up, it becomes easier. Everything starts to move. Everything starts to
get momentum
to go. And then you start to get like maybe almost greedy with your time. Where you're like, I don't want to do anything other than this. And then eventually like, okay, I should go say hi to some friends and stuff like this. I'm getting pretty weird.
That's the struggle of any creative. I mean, I've been there, it's like, I'm just going to keep, when you start having success with something, you have a really, really good night or something like that. And it's like, I guess I should go. I got to go do the dishes. I'll try and record this track one more time or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a blast, man.
Yeah. That's it. That's what's so fun about the journey. And that's all just, I could probably have a full conversation with you guys just about your experiences with psychedelics and DMT.
No shit.
Sounds, but that's fascinating, that whole journey. So to go back to talk about music a little bit here. You guys went the route at first with kind of doing the single thing.
Yep.
And then you did release obviously the EP Backseat.
Yep.
I'm always curious to ask people this. Was that like a conscious choice to just kind of do the singles and then the EP, or did it just kind of happen naturally? Because I know the industry is going that way a lot right now, where it's almost like bands are just releasing singles instead of full albums. Do you are you for that, or is it just?
Yeah, I mean, we did that initially, and I think we're going to do it again because it's just what's being demanded from the system right now. And like, we found when we were releasing singles consistently, Spotify tends to toss you up a little more. And when we started to slow down, it's not the same. And like, don't get me wrong, Spotify Canada has supported us immensely, but to really pop that machine, it seems like you got to constantly feed it. And in total honesty, like we released that EP, it was going to be released all as singles, but when Let It Out started charting in Canada, we were eligible for factor funding for it. And then it just so happens that the Factor had all this bullshit into what we had to do to get the money. And we kind of, this is kind of like back to pre-DMT thing. We kind of betrayed ourselves a little bit. Not like, again, I love the EP. There's a lot of great tracks on it. A couple songs got on radio. Awesome. Love all the songs. We did want to release them all as singles, but the Factor money was something that we was helpful for us to market things. It just so happened that the way they do things was very different to how we do things, and we kind of had to like fit into this box we really didn't want to fit into. And it kind of, again, I'm not bashing Factor at all. It's a great thing. It helps a lot of artists, but it just wasn't the right choice for us at the time.
No. We learned the hard way. But again, love that EP, and I'm glad we did it. It's just another lesson in like we can't do something because of pieces of paper are telling us we have to. And again, much love to Factor for the support, but it was a pretty big headache, to be honest, for us.
Right, for some people, but maybe not for you guys in your process.
And just like,
I mean, now we know that, so that's nice.
And the thing with the singles now is it's just like you can release a record, and unless you have a big audience, it's just going to fall along the shuffle. Where if you release singles, like each song can kind of get its time to shine. And like it's kind of odd because like we record them as records. Like, you know, We Still Your Head, Your Own Ocean, Soul Stain, Gaslight, Circuit, Make It Monday, and Say No More. Those were all recorded and done as like that. To me, that's the first album because of how we recorded it. It's just we released it a little differently in the modern age. And I think we're gonna do more singles. We will do an album at some point. It's just getting the fan base to the size where one can be consumed is going to be something we have to work on. And I think what we'll likely do for physical copies is like start to press all the singles onto you know, a volume 1 LP or whatever.
That almost seems to be the way to go, right? Is doing it like almost like a mixtape type thing. Or
exactly,
whatever, you know?
man. Yeah, exactly that.
It's always changing. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future because right now it's basically like TikTok or bust. Seems to be the thing, and there's some great things on TikTok, and there's some cool things about it, but it gets it's not tiresome. It's just sometimes, you know, sometimes we find ourselves doing things that have nothing to do with what we are doing with our lives. And it's just like, it can be that thing where it's like, where I was saying that ill intent, and not that it's ill intended, but it's like making some silly fucking videos, not exactly what I want to be doing right now. And sometimes it is. And when that strikes and we make content, it's a lot of fun. It's fun. But when it becomes like, we got to make content because they're saying that the statistics wise, it's like, it just gets so muddled up. And then you wonder what it is the fuck you're doing. Like, are we here to make music, or are we supposed to be clowns on a social media app? Which one is it?
Yeah. I think it was Ed Sheeran, if I'm not mistaken. He like went on this rant, an open letter where he was like, I'm sick and tired of the record label telling even people of, you know, his level, for God's sakes, hey, you need to make TikTok content. He's like, why am I doing 2 hours of TikTok content every day? He's like, what am I doing? What are we doing? Like, this is not even, there are artists, I got people, I talk with artists all the time, obviously. And like, we have this conversation where it's like, yeah, TikTok is great. And hey, I've discovered some music off Instagram Reels and TikTok and stuff, which is awesome.
Sure.
But
Same.
The average person who's on TikTok, they aren't going to search out those songs all the time. They might.
Yeah.
Or they might hear it on the radio and go, oh, that's a song from TikTok.
Yeah,
oh, there's more of it? Oh, I almost find that, excuse me, I almost find that hurts artists more in some ways from what I've seen anyway. Like, I work in the education industry, and like what I see people who are younger, not necessarily kids, but like university students and stuff, I see it firsthand. Well, they'll talk about, oh yeah, what's that song by that? It was in that one video.
Yeah.
And then they'll find like, oh yeah, that's that song. Who's the artist? Oh, I don't know.
It's like there's no inquiry.
Yeah, it's just like, I get that, it gets out to billions of people, but it's like, is it really at the core actually helping the artist, unless you're going to be basically a full-time TikTok
Yeah.
No shit.
I
man.
mean,
You know?
in some cases, I think it really has. Like, there are the critical masses. Like, there's this dude Talk who's been getting pretty popular, and he had something go off on TikTok, and like I've seen his, like, it seems like his career is going great, and the music's good, and that's cool. Like, it's cool to see that
It's
happen.
awesome to see that for sure.
for someone who's crushing it, but with the TikTok thing. But it is like it is as a whole becomes a misguiding thing. And as our whole culture starts to aim for attention over what it is that they actually set out to do, it's going to get troublesome, especially when it hits sectors of like surgeons and doctors and pilots. And like it becomes this thing where it's like it seems like we're no longer practicing what it is to actually do the thing. It's like, just read the book. But it's like, don't apply any of it to yourself or go out and learn it. Just read the book. And it's like, so like, what happens when we're all reading a book, but we don't know how to walk? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit weird like that. And again, I'm not bagging TikTok. I do have fun making those videos sometimes with Kyle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
It's just, again, is like our record labels. I understand they're in the business of attention, but do you want artists to sustain, or are we just going to pump and dump everything into oblivion? Because it kind of seems like we're going to pump and dump everything into oblivion.
That's more, I think my point is just I'll hear a great artist or a great song or something on TikTok, and then it's like, hey, whatever happened to that person who had that one huge song? And then there's no follow-up, or the follow-up didn't do quite as good. So it's like, this person's, even though it could have done, a few million streams, well, it didn't do like the first song did. Oh, this person's a one hit. I heard someone say, who's the guy who does the Old Town? Lil Nas. Oh, he's a one hit wonder. I was like, what?
He's
Like,
got like 7 smashers.
I was like, bro, what are you talking about? But like, I mean, I can't personally name another one of the tracks, but
it's true.
I know
they were still huge. It was just that song was so big that it just
that's maybe a
the
bad
biggest shadow of all
but,
time.
No, I think it's a great example
happened,
because people do say that, and you're like, yeah, well, I can sing every word to about 5 of his songs. And to your point, I don't even know the name of the song, but I know the fucking words,
but
and I know the tune.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know that.
Yeah. The whole
Lil Nas X is sick, man. He did some cool things, and I think
he just memed his way to the top. It seemed, and it worked. It's like
he's like a disruptive technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I like it because we need more of that.
Yeah, we need people to just go for it and just do whatever they want and not worry about.
We're in the information age, man.
Yeah, for sure.
We're too concerned with attention and all this shit, and like people are too concerned about if someone else will like it, if they can like it. Again, going into the history over mystery thing, it's like everyone is like,
I want to fit in.
I need 4 people to say this is cool before I go out on a whim and say I like it. It's like that again, the classic Nickelback meme. You play Nickelback, loser? Prison gates won't open. Like we're just making fun of his neighbor, and then he's singing all the words. So where's all this hate coming from? These guys sold 50 million albums. And the haters are singing, like the haters are the best PR team on the planet.
Absolutely. That's like I'm a big fan of that, like late 90s, 2000s era of like kind of like rock and hard rock and metal and stuff. So like people, I'm also a big new metal fan, so like I get it all the time. It's like, you look, but then you put on the song and they're sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Godsmack fan. Everyone shits on Godsmack, but then you put Godsmack on.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there.
I know every single word.
Dude, come on.
Yeah. I remember having to convince my parents to let me get the Awake album because it had a parental advisory on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually my favorite Godsmack record. So that's
awesome. It's a good one. It is a good one. I had that one as a wee lad.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So just as we on that topic, what was the first record you guys each bought? I'm curious.
Oh, that's a good one, man. Oh, shit. Like a few are coming up, but I don't think they're the first. But I got like Dookie or Korn.
Nice. The self-titled Korn?
I think so.
Or sorry, not self-titled.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader. Yes.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Was this the first one?
And I think the first one
Tupac,
I remember getting, I got 2 CDs when I think I was in junior kindergarten. I got Clumsy and the Wallflower CD.
Oh yeah,
nice.
And like I didn't buy them, but they were like the first CDs that I got given, and I was like obsessed with it. The first one I might have bought. I don't know. It's probably Guns N' Roses. I got obsessed with Guns N' Roses when I was a little kid, so it's probably one of those ones. I remember my teachers at parental interviews being like, "What's with this kid in Guns N' Roses?"
You only listen to the spaghetti incident like on repeat.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah. That's their shittiest record.
Oh
What-
god, that's
What about
awesome.
you, man? What was your first one?
So the first one that I was given was
Yeah.
Nickelback Silver Side Up.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay. Okay.
But the first one I bought, well, no, hang on a second. I'm remembering this wrong. Sorry. Yeah, because I got Silver Side Up for a birthday, but before that, I got given some money as an early birthday present. And I was like, I want to go buy a Nickelback record. Because like literally, they were my first band. Like,
That's fucking
it was
awesome.
like you listen to your parents' music and stuff. And I had a very good upbringing of Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin.
Oh,
and
fuck yeah.
Good music.
a bunch of good stuff. But I heard How You Remind Me on MTV. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. But I was still pretty young. So I didn't really understand what a record was.
Yeah.
So I
True.
went to the store and it was like, Nickelback. Okay. And I go and the first Nickelback album I see, I grabbed it and I ran out and I was all excited. And then we put it on, but it didn't have How You Remind Me on it. And I remember being a little upset, but then I started listening to the record and I was like, this is Nickelback. This is because it was The State,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is their
yeah.
second record, right? And
Okay.
I was like, this is fuck. So then I went back and got, I got that. Then Silver Side Up. I got Curb shortly after as well, which most people don't even know that record exists. So I love that. And then Nickelback was the only band I listened to basically for like 4 years.
Amazing.
I'm like not even being funny.
No, that's
then I
awesome,
just
man.
steamrolled from
Fucking
there.
right.
But,
Yeah.
Fucking right.
They got jams. They got jams.
Yeah.
And they got good riffs.
yeah, I genuinely like if you hear some of the stuff like on even like Silver Side Up and The Long Road, like if you hear some of those riffs as a rock guitar player and aren't like, yo, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
If you hear Where Do I Hide and don't just think that's awesome, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to tell you,
I
man.
don't
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know.
Straight
Or
up.
you hear Animals and don't think it's awesome. Like, come
Yeah.
on, man. It's just good old fashioned rock and roll. That's
Yeah.
and the new record's really fun too. I actually really like it.
Yeah, my favorite song was Tidal Wave, which is
Nice.
funny because it's like the indie rock song. So it's like, obviously
Yeah.
I'm going right there. But at the show, at the end of it, we ran into Chris Baseford, who produced the album, and he was just chatting with us. He was asking us how we like Garth's and, told us he dug the sound. And I was like, man, I got to tell you, like when I heard San Quentin, I was like, how the fuck did they get the guitars that loud and in your fucking face? And he was like, that's what we're aiming for. I'm like, no, I want to know.
No, tell me the secret.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to know this, dude. Which was like, because I was like, I've never heard guitars that loud in a mix and like still sit in the mix.
Yeah, it sounds sick.
And you know what it is? It's an amp this big. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I could remember I was watching a live video of another one of my favorite bands, 3 Days Grace, recording.
Yeah, we just saw them actually.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
In Oshawa.
Yeah, I missed that so, and I was really upset. I'm a huge Barry Stockmark. His beard company, I literally
Oh, dope. Yeah.
did a little bit of work with them for a while.
Cool.
And I was watching a video of them recording something, and like Barry's tone was just like insane. And I was like, and he was playing a Les Paul Jr., like the single pickup P90
Yeah.
Les Paul Jr. And I was like, how the fuck? So I messaged Joe's his name, the guy who runs Mean Beard and works with Barry. And I was like, yo, can you ask Barry a question for me? Because I don't want to directly message him because I feel like that's weird. I'm like, I just need to know. And he literally was like, yeah, it's an amp this big. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember the name
Oh,
of the amp, but
seriously?
it was like
Yeah.
this little custom amp.
Oh,
It's like
cool, yeah.
little guy, that guitar,
Yeah.
mic'd
I mean,
properly. Like,
those
yeah.
those P90 pickups will just rip your fucking head
Yeah,
off.
Yeah.
Especially on the bridge there. That's rad. Yeah, we saw them in Oshawa because we have our manager also manages the Standstills and Eagles of Death Metal.
Oh, right on.
And the Standstills were opening, and they have a new track out featuring Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal. So they flew him out to do a video, and so yeah, we just went and kicked it, caught 3 Days Grace, kicked it with Jesse for a little bit, and went around in his Hurricane for a moment because he's an interesting fella, and then we just came on home. But yeah, it was the first time we've seen 3 Days Grace, and Barry was playing an Ibanez Destroyer, which is
Yeah.
my uncle played that, and he was or he still plays that, but he was like a big influence getting me to play. So as soon as I see an Ibanez Destroyer out in the wild, I'm like,
That's awesome. And his are all like the 80s lawsuit era ones too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I think he might have a couple new ones in rotation, but
yeah,
he
I
loves all
think
that 80s
same
lawsuit stuff.
same with that. Our uncle's is a lawsuit one.
Nice.
Shout out to Heavy Metal Polly.
Yeah, shout out to Heavy Metal Polly.
That's it. Well, just real quick on that note, what do you guys what's the live gear like right now? I always like to ask that.
Oh,
I got a Les Paul Custom, a Black Beauty, double humbucker, and then I switch up the amps a lot. Like sometimes we go ampless and we use a Manly TNT on stage, which is super high end preamp. Which it sounds fucking incredible. It's just until we get proper in-ears, it's a little tough to use it live, because if you leave your monitors, now all of a sudden you're blind. But if I'm not using that, I'll use the Vox AC30. And then if I'm feeling really spicy and maybe a little bit of a troll, I'll bring a Marshall MG30 DFX, which is like a $200 piece of shit Marshall practice amp. But
that makes me laugh because I used to work at a music store and I used to sell tons of those.
Yeah.
So that just makes me chuckle.
I don't know what it is, man, but it takes my pedals so well.
It does.
I've got an insane tone out of it, and people are like, "What the fuck are you using?" And then I show them, and they're like, "What?"
They're not bad amps for,
I know.
They take pedals really well.
And like, there's been a couple of shows too where someone's like, "Can we share an amp?" I go, "Yeah, this is what I brought." And then you just see them wheeling their stack in.
Yeah.
But and then like the main thing on my pedal board, I've got like one of the good vintage Rats, and what else? Shallow Water by Fairfield Circuitry, Unpleasant Surprise Fuzz, and then a Space Echo. And that's about it. The pedal board's pretty simple. A new addition was Game Changer Audio. Was at our show in LA, and they sent me one of their Bigsby pedals. And so it's like literally like a Bigsby pedal on their foot, but it's a pitch bender. And I was kind of like, this thing will be okay. And then all of a sudden we're just making the fucking weirdest sounds ever.
Yeah.
I messaged them the other day and I was like, I got to send you something because I think it's going to fucking blow your mind, because we just created this insane guitar tone that seems to chop heads off with this pitch bender. Well, but then Kyle, what are you using?
I got a P bass.
76.
I don't really have an amp, so I'm using whoever's amps around, or
the Manly TNT,
or that Manly TNT. Yeah,
I thought you were about to say I just plug a direct. I don't even.
Right to the back of the PA.
usually we have an SVT though. Darcy usually hooks us up an SVT or a trainer.
He did hook that up.
But the Manly for recording, like the Manly TNT, we use it on our guitar and bass every time, and our voice every time. It's just such an amazing preamp. And it's a 2-channel preamp, but it's incredible. Like even when we were out with Garth, Dave Schiffman, who's an insane engineer, he worked with Rick Rubin for 10 years, did like System of a Down, Audio Slave, all those records with Rick. And I mentioned the Manly TNT, and he's like, "Did you bring it?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh fuck, I used one last week." He's like, "It's the best bass sound I've ever gotten." I was like, "I know, it's incredible." Awesome. It's an incredible preamp.
I've never really checked them out before.
Man.
I mean, everything Manly makes
so
is
simple
insane.
too. It makes it easy for us. We turn one switch on and go.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's helpful.
And then Kev usually rocks. He's got 2 DW drum kits that he brings. Nickelback show, he brought his main one, and it was I was like, this is awesome. And I knew Kevin in his head was like, this is awesome. Where Nickelback's drum tech was on stage with us when we were sound checking.
All right.
And like Kev was just starting to hit the drums, and he's like, "Holy fuck, those sound good!"
You got a lot of compliments.
And he was like, getting in, asking him questions, and he's like, "I gotta go hear this through the mains." And the drum tech literally like ran to front of house to hear Kevin's drum kit, which I was like, "Yeah, bullseye, Kevin,
bullseye,"
because they did sound incredible, and he always has amazing.
Yeah, Kev,
his drums always sound amazing. And I've used his Orange Tiny Tear from here and there live too, but the AC30 is like my mainstay live amp. But I think the TNT is going to be showing up more and more because it's cool to not have amps on stage.
It's pretty funny.
And it sounds amazing. And once we have in-ears, it'll be easy just to go everywhere. Because that was even a bit of a problem at History for me, was just like if I left my post, like to come to the middle of the stage, it was like sometimes I was like really reaching to hear the amp. And I was like, yeah, need the in-ears for this.
This is where you find out, because we haven't really played stages that big. And then you find out, oh, this is a whole different thing.
It's a whole other ball game.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, no wonder these guys have fucking 3 Mesa Boogies just dimed.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't hear shit up
I got my AC 30 on like 2. Because even when I walked on, I like strummed it to just like get a line check. And I was like, I can't hear that. I just went, and I was like, sorry, Dave, who's doing sound. Because like sound check was all set. But I mean,
once you get 2,000 bodies in there, it's a whole different ball game again.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're just flying in the dark out there.
the sound check is like, it seems to be like just so everyone feels okay about themselves, because
changing immediately.
Everything changes as soon as
everyone feels okay. It's like a nice warm hug.
Yeah.
You'll be all right, man. You get up there and rock.
Like, this has nothing to do with the show. It's going to be way different when you get up here and there's people in the room. But now they figured it out. Hey, the sound was great.
So we hear like what we're hearing up there is completely different.
Yeah, the stage sound was tough, but we could. I mean, the monitor.
Of course,
you can spend so much time dialing in the monitors, and usually Kyle and I are like, "Fuck it,
we'll just fly by the seat."
Yeah, we'll figure it out. As long as it's not completely fucked, and like I can hear my voice, I can hear Kyle's. Cool. The rest of it I'll figure out by just like I'll be pressing the right buttons. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty positive. I think this is the right chord.
Yeah,
maybe not.
exactly.
Who
But
knows?
it is fucked up when you go to play and you don't hear the feedback, that all of a sudden you're like, oh no. Even though you've played the song 100 times or 1,000 times, you're still like, feedback. Yeah, you need something to tell you, or it starts to get fucking weird.
It's like a vacuum out there. So all of a sudden you're in space trying to speak. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, I think that's it for live gear. Like again, it's a pretty simple setup. We don't use any samples or tracks. We've tried it rehearsing before, but it's just like it just takes away from the performance as a whole. And like to get technical with a performance is my fucking nightmare.
Just makes it rigid immediately.
And then you're also just clamoring, and there's things to think about. Like I don't want to be thinking about anything. I know if I've got my stuff, the guitar is going to sound good. If Kyle's got his stuff, the bass is going to sound good. If we did our vocal warm-ups, the voice will be okay. Yeah, and like it's just keeping it there. We don't want to, start complicating things. And Kevin plays to a click for the most part, which is great for us to, so we don't just fucking play everything super fast live. We keep it, because the thing with our music is like up or down a few BPM and the whole groove just goes away. So we're like pretty tedious there, but it's, with Kevin on a click, we're still free to do as we please. It's not like, if we're on cues, that starts to get pretty fucking weird, where it's like, at this time, you have to be at the bridge, or like you need to come out of the bridge. Like if we want to go off on a jam, you want to be able to go off on a jam and not like, no, the computerized backing vocals are going to be coming in. It's going to sound stupid.
Yeah, like I can't imagine that. That would just stress me out.
Exactly. That's exactly it, man. That's
and like again, back when we were teching shows back in the day, like we were at the ACC and the band's laptop died.
And the whole show
the
just
fucking show collapsed.
kerplunk.
Other than the drummer kept it together, but and it was one of those things where like obviously the guys whose laptop it was, he was embarrassed. He didn't have a show laptop and a personal laptop, so his personal laptop was a show laptop.
Oh no!
And he would leave it in his bunk, and then be like, "Guys, what the fuck? You like my laptop's not charged." It's like, "Nah, dude, this is you. This is you. You sleep with that thing. I'm not fucking going into your bunk and getting your laptop. Charge it. I didn't have the charger." And it's like, again, that's a little aside, but it was like, I don't want to be in that situation, And like the funny thing was, the drummer's like, "Well, we're musicians. We should fucking figure it out." And I was like, thank God someone's around here playing, because like that's how I feel. I don't want to be on stage with a bunch of shit that's clearly not happening. Go and listen to the record. And I'm not denouncing people who do it, because I understand. I understand there in some cases there'll be something that's such a hook or such a big piece of the song that it needs to be in there. But for us, it's just like you're saying, it's like a tedious nightmare. And it's just like, I don't want to be worried about Logic fucking up while we're playing a song that we can perfectly well play without some little thing going in the background or something, whatever it is.
We need that fourth vocal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's
Where's the female vocalist that's not on stage?
Yeah, right. We don't even have female vocalists in their band. God, did they hire someone just for that one part in that one song? Oh, that's
they're behind the curtain.
Yeah, they're just chilling. Well, I think it was I think it was Falling in Reverse. They were going to play a festival and they couldn't play because their laptop was dead or something.
Yeah.
Or it fucked up. And it's like, I would be so embarrassed. And I understand their whole thing was they were like, our show is going to suffer so much because of our style and then our music. I'd rather us not even play. And it's like, man, that sucks. Like I can't imagine. I wouldn't never want to be in that position where it's like, I can't do what I do because of technology. I mean, I'm kind of in that position with doing a podcast. I guess,
exactly.
But I'd like call you guys and be like, oh, I'm going to plug this into the board and plug this in here. Like I'd always figure it out. And same with musicians, you can just jam, right?
Yeah.
But that would terrify me.
Well, and that's the thing. Like come hell or high water, like we can play all our songs acoustic. We can play all our songs a cappella.
Yeah, we can just sing them.
They all have a fucking intended rhythm. So like you can at least bob your head to it. And that, again, that's kind of what the drummer was getting at, where it's like, guys, like, what are we doing here? If more than half of your show is automated, then it's like, is it even a show anymore? Or are we just like, why not just plug in the album on your phone
and just stand there and point at it?
Yeah. I saw a thing with
got a point though.
That's us when we actually play.
Yeah, bro, that's me right there. Yeah.
George Strombolopoulos was going on about this, where he's like, I think bands that are playing with all these tracks should have to disclose it on the ticket. Because again, there's some people that are doing it really well, but some people are just straight up taking the piss. They're not singing. They're not doing anything. They're just miming to a track where it's like, again, then are we just in some fucked up karaoke? Like, what's going on here?
If it works on TikTok.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. Like we're going to be told this really soon. I know it from there's like, hey, TikTok. We're like, yeah, at this top of the year, we posted fucking 3 TikToks a day for fucking 60 days. It gets tiresome. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that gets traction, sometimes you're like, if this gets too much traction, this is what people want from the account, and this isn't what we want to do. Like when the Wu-Tang thing happened, the radio people we were working with at the time, they're like, great, what's the next cover? Like all of a sudden we're turning into one of those like kitschy cover where you do a quirky cover, and it's like, no. Like this shimmy thing was fun because like we got to create something with it.
It was unexpected.
And it was unexpected. We didn't plan the Wu-Tang to share it. And it's like, again, do we want attention for some quirky thing, or do we want to like have a career here where we're continually exploring ourselves and outputting that exploration? It's like that's for me what I'm interested in, where the business would just be like, well, if it's not selling, it's shit, okay? And it's kind of like, let's get over these fucking things. Like the commerce has to be there. I get it, but we don't want to just aim for a pile of dog shit. And it seems like we really want to smell it.
At the end of the day, a good song should be a good song.
Yeah.
Like it's literally that simple. Is it a good song? Yes. It'll find its way.
Yeah.
It might take a little longer. You might not have overnight success, but like,
yeah, exactly.
People who have talent and are good people, which I think that's something a lot of people don't like to talk about, but it's like, if you're a good person and you have talent, eventually, at least I like to think, you'll get your just dues and you'll get there. You got to put the work in too, though.
Yeah, you do. It's a feedback system, man. It's all it is. If you're honestly putting in work just for the work's sake, you don't even lusting for results at all. This is just to occupy time and space, which a brain needs to do in this reality. And it's like, just if you do that, if you sort that out, then everything else comes in the wake of just that. But we all jump to the complicated stuff first.
Yeah,
you got to sort this out at the root, and it's simple.
You're trying to figure out what Spotify playlist the song you haven't even conceived of yet is going to be on, and if it's going to get it. It's like we get so complicated. We get so complicated, and it's just from the programming of we've all been kind of taught that like, unless you're earning, you're burning your time. Where it's like the more you season whatever it is you're doing, the better it's going to taste. And like again, like Kyle's saying, whenever someone's doing something because they want to do it, the results are a wake of that doing, not the intention. You're not intending like I don't know what to use as an example, but like there's a lot of people who've become very successful, made all the money in the world, but their aim was never at the money. Mm-hmm. Their aim was doing what they did with their time to occupy their time, and the money or the success or whatever commercial reward we need to try to scale off of shows up because they're doing, like you're saying, they were honest in what they were doing. And to what you're saying about being good people, like you got to connect with others. Like that's the whole point. Like, and actually connect, not fake it. Like hanging out and say, hey, how are you to someone is it's starting to seem to get rare in this planet, which is it's just sad. And it's only because people are embarrassed. Like,
and they're fearful.
Yeah. It's like when you're in the grocery store and you see someone from high school and you both look at each other like, are we going to say hello? It's like, hello, motherfucker. Like, I know you know me and I know you. Say hi, hello.
Let's at least have that, even if it's only a few seconds of an interaction. It's like,
don't die from your own embarrassment, like, and not do anything because not because you'll be embarrassed by others, because you'll embarrass yourself in your own head. Like, I get at myself. I don't get at myself, but I note in myself where like, I just strangle myself out where I'm not even giving myself a chance to learn or do like, and I'm actively pursuing that, and it still comes up. It's something that you just learn how to manage. But like, I'm still being like, at times, like, yo, get the fuck out of here to myself. Like, where you're like creating this mist and like choking yourself out. Where it's like, no, allow the space, and it'll happen. And it's just this, it's like just old programming from old generations of like, what are you doing, fuckhead? Like that kind of shit that all our parents grew up with. Like it's still around in us, and it's around in them. And it's like our job to start to work that out of the system so it doesn't persist.
It's super important to do that. And I think that everyone obviously in the creative spaces, it's very prominent, but even just in everyday life, like just,
man.
I talk about stuff like that all the time on the show. Like just, if there's things you want to do, don't worry about, there's something I actually was just a part of that. This time last year, if I was asked to do it, I would have been like, oh, I could never do that. No, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Whereas now I did it and I'm like, oh. And it's like, people are like, oh, this is so awesome. I didn't know you had that in you. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, you can't be your own worst enemy. You just have to just, hey, shut the fuck up. I'm going to go do this.
That's it, man.
Yeah,
that's the resistance.
Exactly.
You have to push against the resistance.
The resistance will always be there. And that's the thing when people with going on with like depression, anxiety, all this stuff is depression, anxiety, and all these things, they're never going away. What's going to change is your ability to manage them. You don't want a life without anxiety. If you're out in the woods and a fucking tiger shows up and you go, huh, that's a problem. That's a fucking problem. And like, that's the whole thing where people are like, I have anxiety. It's like, that means you're alive. We all feel it. It's just, you have to improve the management system, just like people improve their physical body or whatever it is, like anything. We're such an external like species over here where the whole game's internal, and you can grow huge muscles in your mind. So you know how to actually manage these things that are going to come up for everybody. They're not specific. And like you're saying, where like a year ago, it's when you become the thing, it's like you're already it. So now the opportunity that comes isn't something you're dreaming for. It's something that you're like, this makes sense. Like people were like, are you freaking out about the Nickelback show? And I'm not that, no, it was exciting, but it was like, it made sense that we were at the point to do something.
We were
like
prepared
that.
For it.
It was exactly. It wasn't like we showed up and we're like, oh, it just made sense that was the next step and what needed to happen with our career and what had been going with us. Just like you're saying with you, or like a year ago, same thing. We'd be like, what the fuck?
We would have been like shitting our pants. No way. But it's like, you just show up and as you become better than your fear, bigger than your fear.
That's it. That's
and
and
the horizon expands, and then you go to the next step, and then you push that horizon. It just keeps happening.
And it's almost still like, hey, let's see if we can really do this. Let's see if we're as good as we think we are, and that all these people think we are. Yeah. Let's prove this ourselves and these people right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you do it, and you're like, oh, yeah, of course. Like
just another day in the office.
It's just once you get to that point, that's a beautiful place to be in for
sure.
Absolutely. Doesn't mean you don't get nervous.
No, you go through the whole thing, man.
Yeah.
Again, it's like that management thing. It's
but
like
you're not letting it defeat you.
Exactly. And like that, even you just like think about like, again, I have a knack of always tying around what we're doing right now with everything. It's like us and you sitting here together right now, we already triumphed over the head trying to get in our way to say yes and do this. And like those are micro battles. But like when folks start to get really trapped in by words, because that's all it is a looping that starts to push you down until you can't move. It's like these micro transactions, these micro yeses are the way out of that fucking maze. And just showing up and like, a thing that like Kyle and I have found time and time again is that if you show up now, the future shows up for you every time. You can't, if you're taking care of your shit right now, the future's not going to fall apart. It just doesn't happen that way. There's going to be things that happen, like things out of your control. But like, again, if you're attending to the moment, the future will attend to you. If you're not, then you're going to have some issues, and then you're going to keep reliving the past, which is like kind of what you could call karma. Karma is like when you keep getting the same result because you keep living the same pattern. And so it keeps delivering it back to you and shoving it down your throat. And you go, what the fuck is going on? Why does this keep happening? And you don't discern that pattern because you're literally, it's like we were talking about with the old programming. It's like you could be living a program that your great-great-grandfather had in him, and it was because he had to deal with whatever it was. And now you keep living that out in some subway that you're not even conscious of, and it keeps providing these same results. And until you break that pattern, can you start to tend to the moment and start to bring in the harvest you want? Where it's kind of like, I don't want to keep harvesting this shitty wheat. I just want to grow weed. But it's like, no, you gotta harvest that wheat until it's all gone, buddy. No, I don't want any more wheat. You just keep eating Wheaties.
Just keep eating Wheaties.
I just want some weed to smoke.
You've got to plant the seeds today for what you want to harvest tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of recropping the old ones over and over again.
That we know and love, and that's why
it's
we keep
a loop.
doing it.
It's a tape loop. And nothing more, so you can walk away from it too. That's the other thing. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, that's fantastic, boys. It's been great getting to chat with you, and this has been a really fun conversation. I appreciate you guys being so candid, and a kind of a staple question I always end off episodes with here. This can go one of two ways here, so it's up to you guys how you want this to go.
Beautiful.
What is the best or the worst show story that you each have? Best show you've ever had, worst show you've ever had, funny moment that happened.
There's like a pretty funny one that happened like in a 2-day span. I'm not sure if Kyle will have a different story, but it was like the top of 2020. So we had been out for less than a year. We were playing the Drake Underground, sold out, completely rammed. After that, met with the management company in LA, signed with Mark Pollock as our manager. So we were like, okay, sweet. At the time, the Beaches hooked us up with him and all this stuff. And it was just like, fucking right. This is amazing. And he's like, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to another level here. The next day we played at a Thai restaurant in a mall in Guelph. and like,
yo, that's metal.
I know.
There's 3 really drunk people in there that like, that's where they go for beers. You know what I mean?
And then there's like the worst mixer you've ever seen. Like our rehearsal space has a way better PA system, and some drunk guy doing sound who got paid more than all the bands and was like, hey boys, can you hurry this up? I really want to go drink beers. And like, we brought out like a few people who were like super fans, had been to a bunch of shows, and like, they were like, oh fuck boys, I guess it's over for you now. Like, just joking, but like
just the dive.
Yeah. It was kept diving, man, every step.
And another guy was like, man, it was painful to see like a real band. Like you guys were fucking melting it in a fucking Thai restaurant to just like a bunch of clueless people. And I was like, yeah, it didn't feel too good.
This is part of the rock and roll.
And it was like
there was a point where Ben threatened to beat up the audience at 2. Like it got to a point of not good. Like you want to wrestle?
I didn't threaten the audience. Wrestle? I said it's more livelier at my grandma's. We could just start a Royal Rumble if we need some excitement.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
it was
Macho Man. I like that.
Yeah, trying to throw some life in there. It wasn't happening though.
But it was a perfect and it always happens like this with music. Like you play a fucking ringer, and then the next day you're in the shitter again, and that's fine. It's part of it. It was just that one was like a classic. Like again, rammed house.
Contrast.
People are fucking losing their minds. Bunch of big bands and labels at the show, and then like. Signing with big management company in LA, it was just like, yeah. And then it was just like
Kerplunk.
And the Thai restaurant for $50.
It was a huge snowstorm to get there. Like it was a pain in the ass to get there. Like it was just a whole conquest.
And like the other bands, like, oh my God, it just some of the sounds coming off the drum kit, and it was just amateur hour.
Yeah.
And then again, even some of the bands being like, "Why are you guys playing here?" And I was like, "This is how it is sometimes."
You know what's bad when the bands are like, "Bro, you do not belong here." Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is-
And then
Like,
the
we suck.
promoter's losing it. He's like, "This is a great night." I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Like this was."
That's almost sad.
It's like there's 4
You know?
people here, and
Yeah.
like,
It's the best night we've ever had.
yeah,
No
and you're like, I'm fucking on the verge of tears here.
But yeah, that was a pretty rough.
That
one.
was a funny one. And I mean, there's
The
been
contrast. There's been another contrast like that. We did in the summer. We did LA, and it was just like we did the whole trip, and it was like awesome to go out there and hang out. And
Ram show in LA too, which was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Just everything was going smooth, and then like the next, what was it, a week?
It was like 4 days later after we
were in
landed.
North Bay, in this like brewery / used to be a car dealer, and like I got a broomstick taped for the mic stand, and like there's no sound guy. We're like 2 of us are playing, and one of us is going, yeah, it sounds kind of good, and then switching it out.
And it was so odd because like the guarantee was good. Like we got a bunch of money, and
You're
we're
right.
like, okay, so like obviously they know how to put on some shows, and like showed up, like Kyle's saying, there's one mic stand. There's like, it's like a hand built stage that with room for 2. And then like the mixer's like covered in dust, and it's 2 channels, and there's one mic cable. And I was like, hey, any other mic stands? He's like, I don't think so. Comes out with like one of the little podcast mic stands. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
So, but it's just like funny things like that where we're like get trolled, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
That's it. That's what he had.
Exactly.
A
It.
little tabletop mic stand I just happened to have.
I was like, so am I going to sit at the table and sing, buddy, or what here?
And that's why I go, I'm assuming it's safe to assume we're not getting a sound guy. And he's like, a what? And I was like, thank you.
Yeah. What's a sound guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a guy who listens to the sound, bro? Because like,
But
I'm
so odd
guy.
that I was like, it was odd. It was odd that they would be paying the kind of money they paid, and then like, you know, like I would have been like, you know, take that money and invest it in the PA, and then we'll come play in 6 months when you recoup it. Like, because it was fucked. Because you're literally sitting there being like, we could have just brought our gear and put on a way better show, and that would have been annoying. But had they told us, it would have been less annoying than showing up and being like, oh. Because
nothing worse.
Yeah, I had to check my disappointment immediately. I had to just be like, okay, Ben, this is how it's going. Don't fight it, because
don't nosedive harder than it already is going.
Yeah.
All right,
Just
no
accept it.
royal rumbles.
Just accept it as right, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't jump off the top rope, brother. Just keep it.
Yeah, and it was fine. It was fine. But it was just again one of those moments of like, you gotta be fucking kidding.
We actually usually have a hedge against stuff like this, and this is how we practice it. Once in a while, when we're at a restaurant, we'll look at the menu and we'll look for the biggest piece of shit on that menu that you would hate, and we'll order it and eat that shit, man.
Yeah, it sucks. I don't
Just
like
to be
doing
like,
it, but every so often,
disappointed, aren't you? Just to practice the disappointment button, you know.
And sometimes you really don't want to see what that worst item is on the menu.
Oh, I know.
Hey guys, can you give me what's the worst thing on your menu? Oh,
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Make it worse.
And then and then the thing is, they bring you a cheeseburger, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah. Now you're concerned.
Yeah.
Now you're really concerned. What's in this thing?
The funny thing too is like the other side of this though is sometimes you order something that you think is going to suck and it's amazing.
Yeah, rare, but sometimes
you
break through to like a new palate. You're like, well,
I trolled myself into really enjoying this.
Yeah, that's it. Or you go to a place you think is going to suck.
Right.
I had that pretty recently.
What'd you hit?
Just a place in town here where I live in Peterborough.
Yeah.
I don't want to share the name of the place because I thought they were going to suck. But I went there and I was like, this breakfast fucking slaps. All right. Like,
Yeah, fucking right.
Yo, this is great.
That's
Fucking
wicked.
right.
I really like Taste of India in Peterborough.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good place.
It's one of the
That's
only
the hottest
places,
meal I've ever had
One
there,
of the
though,
only
one
places
time.
I've ever tapped out, and I think it was because I was the late night asshole and I ordered the chicken vindaloo,
Yeah.
and I was like,
You said non-white boy.
I was like, hit me with it, and oh my god, and like,
Got hit.
you know, we've done the one chip challenge, we've done the hot ones lineup, all that, like we fuck with the spicy stuff, but this was like, I had to throw in the towel.
Weeks in repair.
Yeah,
for
and
the
it fucked
system.
the stomach up for a while. It wasn't a good choice at the time. but it's kind of funny that I'm saying this, but the restaurant's amazing. Like all the food's amazing. That was
Don't
my
go too
fault.
hard, yeah.
Don't ask them to really hit you with it because
they will.
Because they will, and you'll be ill for weeks afterwards.
They will, and you'll be ill.
They will, and you'll be ill. There you go.
R.I.P. to Hot Belly Mamas too.
Yeah,
that was a good joint.
I didn't even get a chance to eat there, man. We moved here in 2019, and
right,
like late 2019, and
yeah, fuck,
There
it
you
was
go.
good. It was a good place.
bums me out.
There'll be more.
Yeah.
There will be
Oh yeah,
more.
there's a lot of great places here in town, so it's keeps me nice and fat. I enjoy it.
Winter's coming, man.
It's
Gotta stay
good.
warm.
And,
Yeah.
Georgetown, where we are, there's no good food around, so just
Yeah.
appreciate it.
The Pita Pit's
Pita
the
Pit's
best
the best joint in
restaurant.
town.
Shouts to Peter Pitt, always solid.
Always
Yeah,
solid,
always solid,
but,
man.
but not what
Exactly.
you want as the best restaurant in your town.
That's like saying, oh yeah, we got a McDonald's, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all right.
Exactly.
We go every time we'll be like, fuck it, we're gonna order in tonight. You go and skip the dishes, and you're like, I'll just fucking make dinner. That's just disappointing.
Katie will be better than this stuff.
Yeah,
Katie and some hot dogs, a little hot sauce maybe.
Yeah.
Change it up.
yeah.
That's it. All right, boys. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to chat with you. Thank you so much
Likewise,
for the time.
TJ.
Thanks, TJ,
I'll have
man.
some links down below for Mountain Head folks. Go check them out. New single, Automatic's fucking badass. Thanks a lot,
Fucking
boys.
right, man.
Thanks, dude.
All right, folks. There you have it. My chat with Ben and Kyle from Mountain Head. What a just roller coaster of an awesome episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I have some links down below for Mountain Head. Go check them out. They are just awesome, really unique, groovy rock band with some fun kind of indie pop, electro pop elements thrown in. So definitely go ahead and check them out. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of The Hard Show. If you are a new listener, maybe be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know your favorite Mountain Head song, things of that nature. I always enjoy getting to chat with you guys. You can follow The Hard Show on social media. We have Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to be on the show or you have a question, you can contact me on social media or directly at thehardershow@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show a little further, consider checking out The Harder Show Patreon at patreon.com/The Harder Show, where for as little as $1 a month, you can help support the show. We have a goal right now for $100 USD a month. I'm currently at $91. We are so darn close. And once I hit that goal, I'm going to have some cool things happening. But if you join at the next up tier from that, which is the $5 a month tier, I have the $1, $5, $10. $5 a month tier will get access to my exclusive horror narration podcast that I do over on the Harder Show Patreon, the Tapes of Trepidation. It is so much fun. I got a lot of Christmas content coming up for that. I read creepypastas and urban legend type stuff and things of that nature. And I love doing it so much. So if you would like to support the Harder Show on Patreon, check it out. On top of all that, you will also get shout outs on every single episode of the Harder Show, no matter what I'm doing, just like my fine patrons, my hotheads. We have the OG hothead, Scott Duquette. We have Ronan Kumori of Baseline Feed. Tanner Wood of Baseline Feed. Phenomenal podcast. Go check out Baseline Feed. We have Eric Phones, who actually has made a couple appearances on Tapes of Trepidation, a phenomenal voice actor. Arthur Unk, who's a badass writer. Mike Quintero of Shudder Radio. Go check out that podcast. It is awesome. Formerly of Mike's Mystery Mansion. We have CM Peters, a phenomenal author and also of the Baseline Feed podcast. We have my man, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts, my graphics guy, does all my stuff. The man. Go check him out at jaybirddigitalarts.com if you are in need of any kind of graphic design work. Kelly Sisson, who is phenomenal. Thank you so much for all the support, Kelly. I appreciate it. We have, of course, Terry and Janet Hodder. Same last name as me. That's weird. Shouts to them. LOL. We have Mr. Brandon Bowden of Bowden Voice. And, of course, last but not least, we have Neil Skrupa, who is the newest patron. And I just need to say, I appreciate all you guys so very much. The patrons have made this year one of the best years in my life for the podcast, and I just cannot thank them enough. We also have a Discord, And if you join the Hotter Show Discord, you'll get access to exclusive content there as well. And if you are a patron at the $1 or above tiers and you join the Discord, you'll get access to even more exclusive conversations and content. So something to think about. You don't have to join the Patreon. Just a like and a subscribe helps the show so much. Ratings help the show so much. Or join the Discord and come have some fun. Thank you so very much again for listening. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time on The Harder Show. Take it easy, guys.